charismatic leaders, apocalyptic visions, promises of salvation. Throughout history, cults have exploited human vulnerability, luring followers into worlds of manipulation, fear, and violence. Today, we're unraveling the chilling histories of 10 infamous cults, stories of brainwashing, betrayal, and unimaginable tragedy. Strap in. This is a journey into the darkest corners of belief. Heaven's Gate. In the 1970s, Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles, a former music teacher and nurse, founded Heaven's Gate after claiming to receive divine messages about their true identities as extraterrestrial beings. They called themselves the two witnesses from the Book of Revelation and preached that Earth was a doomed garden to be recycled. To survive, followers had to shed their human containers and ascend to a UFO they believed trailed the Hale-Bopp comet. The cult operated in secrecy for decades, enforcing strict rules, celibacy, communal living, and androgynous clothing to erase individuality. Members cut ties with families, donated life savings, and lived in isolated communes. When the comet passed in 1997, they believed it was time to ascend. Their website posted a message, and soon after, 39 members committed mass suicide, believing their deaths would help them board the spaceship. On March 26, 1997, authorities discovered the gruesome scene. 39 bodies laid neatly on bunk beds, draped in purple shrouds and matching Nike sneakers, a symbol of their journey. Each had a $5 bill and a suitcase packed for the trip. Their final website post read, "Hale-Bopp brings closure. We are exiting this world." Jonestown. Jim Jones began as a progressive preacher in 1950s Indiana, advocating racial integration and helping the poor. But by the 1970s, his People's Temple morphed into a paranoid dictatorship. Fleeing media scrutiny, Jones moved 900 followers to Guyana, promising a socialist utopia. Instead, Jonestown became a prison. Members worked 18-hour days, endured starvation, and faced torture. Jones, addicted to drugs and power, brainwashed followers with apocalyptic sermons, and he conducted fake poison drills to test loyalty. But in 1978, U.S. Congressman Leo Ryan arrived to investigate abuse claims. He found that many want to flee the town. What happened next is the stuff of nightmares. As Ryan prepared to leave with defectors, Jones' guards opened fire, killing the congressman, 3 journalists, and a fleeing member. That night, Jones ordered his revolutionary suicide. Parents injected cyanide into their children's mouths before drinking the poison themselves. Over 900 died, including 276 children. Jonestown wasn't just a mass suicide, it was a mass murder. Jones' body was found with a gunshot wound, likely self-inflicted. The tragedy birthed the phrase, "Don't drink the Kool-Aid," though survivors confirmed the poison was mixed with flavor aid. Aum Shinrikyo. Shoko Asahara, a blind self-proclaimed guru, founded Aum Shinrikyo in 1984, blending Buddhism, Hinduism, and apocalyptic Christianity. He claimed to be Christ reincarnated and sold his hair, blood, and bathwater as holy relics to followers. But Asahara's real goal was Armageddon. He stockpiled weapons, built a lab to produce sarin gas, and trained followers for war. In 1994, Aum released sarin in Matsumoto, killing 8. When police raided their compounds, Asahara retaliated. On March 20th, 1995, 5 members boarded Tokyo subway trains at rush hour. They punctured bags of liquid sarin, releasing a deadly gas that killed 13 and injured over 1,000. Victims foamed at the mouth, convulsed, and collapsed in streets. Asahara and 12 senior members were executed in 2018. Yet, Aum still exists under the name Aleph, with hundreds of members in Japan and Russia. A chilling reminder, even after tragedy, some cults refuse to die. 10 Commandments. In 1989, Credonia Mwerand, a former bar owner, and Joseph Kibwetir, a disgraced politician, founded this cult after claiming visions of the Virgin Mary. They enforced the 10 Commandments with fanatical zeal. No speaking, no sex, no possessions. Members sold homes and farms to buy holy coffins for the apocalypse. When December 31st, 1999, passed without disaster, dissent erupted. Desperate to retain control, leaders announced a new doomsday. March 17th, 2000. They threw a farewell party at their church in Kanunga, but it was a death trap. As 530 members gathered, doors were nailed shut, sulfuric acid ignited, and the building burned. Days later, authorities found hundreds more bodies, poisoned, strangled, or buried alive. The death toll, 924. the leaders vanished. Some speculate they fled to the Congo. Others believe they died in the fire. To this day, no one knows how a cult preaching silence and piety became a slaughterhouse. The Manson family. Charles Manson, a petty criminal with a messiah complex, exploited the 1960s counterculture movement. He gathered runaways and addicts at Spawn Ranch, dosing them with LSD and preaching helter-skelter, a race war he believed would leave his cult ruling the world. On August 9, 1969, Manson ordered followers to totally destroy actress Sharon Tate's home. She, 8 months pregnant, begged for her unborn child's life before being stabbed 16 times. The next night, the family slaughtered a grocery magnate and his wife, smearing pig and blood on the walls. Manson died in prison in 2017, but his influence lingers. His mugshot, swastika carved into his forehead, became a symbol of evil. Yet, some still romanticize him, proof that even monsters can become myths. NXIVM, the self-help cult. Keith Raniere posed as a genius entrepreneur, promising followers ethical enlightenment through his self-help group, NXIVM. But behind the facade was DOS, a secret society where women were branded with Raniere's initials. Multiple abuse cases occurred within the group. Raniere persuaded the members that he had special, almost supernatural abilities to heal. He told the women that the only way to reduce their own suffering was to recruit more women, setting up a pyramid-like system. To keep the abuse a secret, the women were forced to provide nude photographs and make false confessions, which were then used to blackmail them into silence. Actress Allison Mack recruited members, luring them with promises of empowerment. Survivors describe rituals where slaves knelt naked, pledging obedience. Raniere, calling himself Vanguard, claimed he could heal women through abuse. In 2019, Raniere was convicted of sex trafficking and forced labor. Mack, once a Hollywood starlet, now serves 3 years in prison. NXIVM exposes how even modern, woke movements can mask horrors. The Church of the Lamb of God. Orville LeBaron, a Mormon fundamentalist, believed God ordered him to execute sinners through blood atonement. His targets? Rival polygamist leaders, including his own brothers. In 1977, LeBaron's followers ambushed his brother Joel's car, shooting him 20 times. When his daughter Rebecca defied him, she was murdered and buried in a shallow grave. From prison, LeBaron penned hit lists, demanding followers cleanse the earth. LeBaron died in 1981, but his legacy lives on. In 2019, cartels massacred 9 women and children from the LeBaron family in Mexico, a brutal reminder that cult violence rarely stays buried. Order of the Solar Temple. Joseph D. Mambro and Luke Jurett founded this cult in the 1980s, blending Knights Templar mysticism and UFO lore. They preached that suicide would transport souls to Sirius, a higher realm. In 1994, 53 members died in Switzerland and Canada, some shot, others poisoned, all dressed in ritual robes. A year later, 16 more burned alive in France. Leaders staged miracles with hidden projectors and dubbed them cosmic signs. D. Mambro's final act? Murdering his infant son, declared an antichrist, before killing himself. The Solar Temple proves how easily spirituality can curdle into madness. The Ant Hill Kids. Rock Thériault, an ex-soldier turned cult leader, convinced followers the apocalypse would spare their remote Quebec commune. But his tests of faith were pure torture. Thériault performed amateur surgeries, drilling into skulls, severing limbs, claiming God guided his hands. When a baby developed a hernia, he cured it by slashing the mother's stomach. After a member escaped, police found bodies buried in the woods and survivors with mutilated bodies. Thériault died in prison in 2011, but his victims still bear physical and emotional scars. A grim lesson. Monsters don't need ideology, just a knife and a god complex. Penza Recluses, the Cave of the Apocalypse. In 2007, Pyotr Kuznetsov, a schizophrenic engineer, convinced 35 Russians the world would end in 2008. They stockpiled food in a cave, rejecting modern life as satanic. When authorities intervened, Kuznetsov threatened to blow up the cave. But after months underground, snow collapsed the entrance and toxic fumes killed 2. Kuznetsov, realizing his prophecy failed, slit his wrists. Survivors emerged to a world unchanged, except for their shattered lives. Kuznetsov was institutionalized, diagnosed with schizophrenia. His cult, a tragic case of mental illness masquerading as prophecy. Cults thrive on our deepest fears and desires. They promise answers, but deliver nightmares. As these stories show, blind faith can be deadly. So question the charismatic, challenge the absolute, and remember, the road to hell is often paved with heavenly promises.